Peter Wilding, Vincent Marks, and I just thought it'd be nice to have a conversation with you both. I'd like to start by asking you sort of how you went to Surrey and how you ended up working with Tom Whitehead in Birmingham. So, can we talk about Surrey?
I went to Surrey because they decided that they were going to create a department of clinical biochemistry and a professor. Yeah. And I was nearby in Epsom, and I had the most important lab in Surrey. Right. I had far and away the best lab, the only one that really mattered. Yeah. Really for the, well, not just in Surrey, but Southwest Thames region. And I realised that if there was going to be a professor in the next town,
that's going to be you.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I could no longer expect everything to come to me, and our empire would wither away and die. So I thought, well, in that case, I'd better go to Guildford.
My tale starts about 1961, when I went to the General Hospital in Birmingham under Bob Gaddy. Okay. And I was a young basic grade biochemist, and also carrying out my PhD research with Bob Gaddy as a supervisor. Yeah. And that went very well. Just over 3 years, I went off to collect a BTA. Yeah. Do you remember that? A Bean to America.
Okay. Yeah.
It really an essential qualification when we were young.
It was a qualification when we were young. Everyone wanted to go over to the States for some experience. Yeah. And
that'd be on a comet, I should think.
No, it wasn't. It was on the old Queen Mary.
I was going to say paddle steamer.
I don't know if it's irrelevant.
You went by boat?
We went by boat on the old Queen Mary, and I think our cabin was next to the anchor. Yeah. The old Queen Mary had no stabilizers, and so believe me, it was a rough crossing. My wife has never forgiven me for it. Such a contrast to anything I'd ever experienced in Britain. They had instruments and automation, some computing. Yeah. And it was a large and well-organized lab, and in fact the video I made of that on Super 8 film is on YouTube today, and I condensed it, and it had no soundtrack, and a few years ago I put a soundtrack on that video. So anyway, I came back from there, and I joined Tom Whitehead at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham.
Of course, I got to know him as he became more and more influential.
And as you became the professor in Guildford, you developed training and research and started really taking forward certain aspects of clinical biochemistry.
Well, I had to build up a laboratory for the hospital because there was nothing there when I went. 6 MLSOs. Mm-hmm. And I had to build that department up. I had to start from scratch at the university and create a department of clinical biochemistry, which meant going out and getting research grants to employ postdocs to do the work for which I would get the credit.
And interestingly, because obviously in Birmingham now, what we're trying to do is really home in on specialist tests that make a difference to patient care. Yes. You worked on some really specialist tests, trace elements and
that's
nutrition,
right.
Didn't you?
I was very lucky that shortly after I went there, it was decided centrally to set up the supra-regional assay service. And I had already been one of the sort of pioneers of immunoassay and of trace elements, because I was interested in certain trace elements. So I managed to secure 2 SAS units for Guildford, which was unprecedented because they only went to teaching hospitals. Of course, we weren't teaching hospital. So I set up, and they are still running, 2 of the specialist referral centres. I was very fortunate in having good people to take over the day-to-day management and provision of the service. Okay.
And then in Birmingham, you went to work with Tom.
Well,
at the Wolfson.
Well, no, the Wolfson didn't even exist in '67. And what happened, I went back, and this was the era, if you remember, where profiling was just being established. Yeah. And it was profiling using linked autoanalyzer 1s.
Yeah, Technicon.
Technicon. And all of the documentation was recorded on punch cards. And much of the work that came out of the department in those days was all about determining whether profiling had value and what its downside was. And so I was with Tom when I came back for about 2 years. Right. And then I went off to London for a period.
Okay. So, and in that time in Birmingham, again, the MSc was being established?
Very much so. The young bloods that we had through as MSc students in those days, most of them went on to have very good careers in clinical biochemistry.
Yeah. Really, the two MSc courses competed with each other at a very high level, didn't
Well,
they?
we competed, but in fact there was a need for our MSc, their MSc, and in fact then eventually London set one up. There's no doubt that there was a real need. Most of the students who came through us have finished up, those who stayed in the NHS at consultant level. I mean, many of them have now retired, but they became the leaders of the profession, and coming to an ACB meeting was a joy to return to see lots of their old friends and students.
Now, I remember one really big thing you did in Guildford.
We were the pioneers of point of care
You invented
testing.